Thank you for staying with us on Frontline this morning. Now we are into the interview segment of the show, and today on Frontline we will be discussing the political shifts that is shaping Nigeria's future ahead of the 2027 general election. With the 2027 general election fast approaching, all eyes are on the Emerging Alliance, and one party that is chairing a fresh conversation is the African Democratic Party, ADC. ADC, as a new coalition strategy, is signaling bold intent to challenge the dominance of the ruling All Progressive Congress and the People's Democratic Party. But a lot of questions have been raised about this coalition, with a lot of drama in the political space of Nigeria. How significant is this move, and is the ADC building a viable third force, or is it some short-term alignment with no sustainability in view? These are many questions that people have been asking about this coalition. Thus, on the program this morning, we'll be looking at 2027 and the rise of a third force. That will form the basis of our discussion this morning. And joining us to have this conversation is a friend of the station, a political analyst and a journalist. I have with me Mr. Sam Nwako on the program this morning. Many thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Good morning, viewers.
Yeah, so you are in the know of all the political drama that has been going on of recent. So let me ask you, what is your general assessment or view about this coalition and the adoption of the African Democratic Party?
Thank you. The general assessment for me is the change in the texture of the politics we've been playing in the last few years. Since the emergence of President Bola Tinubu in 2023, the opposition had gone to sleep. But little did we know that they hibernated, they went smoldering so as to cook something. And now that they have come, it has changed the political landscape. It has changed a lot of things in the political atmosphere, and the discussion has shifted so very much from what it was to a coalition, to an opposition we can look at, secondly, and thirdly, to African Democratic Congress and the people who make up, or let's say the people who took up the party and dusted it up to make African Democratic Congress what it has turned out to be now. So for me, the general talk about it is that it has changed the political atmosphere, and we are beginning to look at something that resembles an opposition party to the All Progressives Congress, which is in government.
It is coming in the wake of the internal crisis rocking the People's Democratic Party. Are you seeing it as a way of leveraging on the weakness of the PDP? It's
part of it. The difference between what we have now and what happened in 2013 is the difference between what happened then is that in 2013 the parties came and formed an alliance. The CPC, Action Congress, APP, and all of them, and fragments of the People's Democratic Party all came together and formed an alliance and wrestled power from the PDP. But when APC came, they tried to consolidate. So at this level now, what the ADC is doing is that, okay, ADC is there as a party. It's just like a bigger animal occupying the space created by a smaller animal. In the hunting parlance, it's called subsumption. When the snake comes and drives out a rat and lives in that hole, that kind of thing. But this one now is not subsumption like that. It is the parties discussing with this ADC and saying, okay, all of us, fragments of all these other political parties, including the People's Democratic Party, which is indeed fragmented, or let me say thoroughly infiltrated, all of them coming together to now say, okay, let us use this platform, because ADC is not a new party. It's been I know it contested the 2010 election in Anambra. I remember very well. So ADC is not a new party. They just looked for a platform and said, okay, all of you come hither, all ye that are disgruntled, let us face APC using this platform. So
they could have adopted PDP and resolve all the internal crises.
Unfortunately, PDP is way too gone into its crisis for anybody to begin to look for how to answer the questions that are raising their heads every now and then. One of the questions is, if you say you are contesting on the platform of the PDP, who will sign your form? Is it Anyanwu or the other secretary, and so on and so forth? So on both hands and in many ways, it is very difficult to risk using the People's Democratic Party. Besides, there has been too much attention on the PDP, and the attention on the PDP has been so much that it has become, any move it makes, it's under check. So it will be unwise to use the PDP, going by what the politicians have decided to do. And that's even why they floated some decoys. Because I remember they went to SDP, they countered them. They tried to use, they said they wanted to register ADA, African Democratic Alliance. They countered them. So nobody knew that they were doing all those to take attention away from what they were doing. And because they said they've been discussing for 18 months. So it tells you that just some 5-6 months after swearing in of Tinubu, they decided on what to do. So I think it's a military strategy, and it worked for them, because the names of the people who are the owners of the party, who run the party, whose names are domiciled at INEC, are the people who did the formal handover. So it will take little or nothing to be able to stabilize that ADC.
The coalition, after unveiling, has generated a lot of reactions from different quarters, while some see it as some form of gaslighting. Because I read a lot of comments. Others perceive it to be another political party that has just come to also play on Nigerians' intelligence, and a lot of that because of the internal crisis in the camp of the People's Democratic Party. So what exactly do you think this coalition stand to gain, or what do you think they need to do to have a solid structure? Because looking at the 2027 and the APC with all of their strategy, and they also have some kind of crisis also rocking them even in their short time of unveiling. So do you think they have what it takes to actually compete with the All Progressive Congress, looking at all of this drama that is taking place in the political space?
I think they do. And I'm saying that with all sense of modesty, because the thinking is that they are going to get themselves together and speak with one voice. If they do that, definitely, oh yes, they do. But if they continue the kind of things they were doing in the parties from where they came to coalesce at the ADC, they cannot. So I think they do. They have what it takes, because the political atmosphere is tensed as we speak. Not many people are very happy with the turn of the things in the country. Many people are saying Tinubu's government has not performed up to their expectation. They are complaining that poverty has increased and so on. So if the ADC leverages on that and brings itself together, gather the members, bring them together as one broom, they are going to have an impact. They can competently challenge the APC. Not because the ADC is anything new, or that the people who are in there are anything other than what they used to be, but because they want to leverage on the current situation in the country and react to what Nigerians, play on the current atmospheric, the feelings of Nigerians and so on. And just like they did in 2003, they will just come and 2013, they will just say, hey, look at this is bad, that is bad, and because it's the same people who recycle themselves everywhere. So they will just come and say, okay, now my Mercedes is bigger than yours. That's a poem by J.P. Clark. They will just come and play on their on the current situation in the country, and boom, you know it, they already will run with it. So all I'm trying to say is that they have the wherewithal, they have the many of them, this thing we call structure is actually followership, and many of the people who are in that ADC now, many of the people who have decided to sign up for that party have their structures. Structure is just followership of those people, so they can leverage on that. If they get themselves together, choose the right candidate, I want to believe they will give APC a run for their money.
And it's going to be a threat to them.
Yes, it is. It is, or as it is now.
As it is now.
From their reactions, you know that they feel that there's a threat somewhere, because they are also going to talk to the voting public. You know, the Southeast is there, disgruntled, they feel marginalized. The South is not particularly happy, and they don't even seem to be happy with the forced defections. So all those things are definitely going to unravel in another few months. In 6 months, by the grace of God, this year will end, and by the end of this year we will be in that 2026 which precedes 2027. And the interesting thing is, nobody has been discussing 2026.
Exactly.
You
and
know,
it seems that the 2027 is just at the back of
yes, we are. The 2027 has taken so much time, as if it is the next year. Whereas God has so many things ahead of us while we look forward to 2027. So I think the ADC is a threat already, because the kind of reactions we saw when they announced that coalition on last Wednesday, the kind of reactions we saw showed that there is a ripple, there is panicking in the camp of the APC.
Even with the FCT minister calling for immediate
panic. So they will have to sit down and re-strategize, because one politician will say, "You don't pass, be careful." It has gone beyond what they had in mind. You know, they were looking at other places. They were looking at they were even looking at them registering a new political party. But from all indications, they have more hidden in their sleeves than what we are seeing at the moment. So APC has to be really very careful.
The key players in this ADC are political bigwigs from different political parties who has not even tendered their resignation letter from the previous party.
Yes, that's true. Yes.
So is that not some kind of anti-party activities?
That's a very beautiful one. Because looking at it from, in fact, my column last weekend, I touched on that. You know, Festus Keyamo was one of the first persons that said, "Oh, you cannot be in one party and be talking about another party. You cannot be in one party and be campaigning." I mean, he said it's unconstitutional.
Yeah, it is.
You know, so we now have unconstitutionality, you know, impunity. If we use another word for it, we have impunity playing out in our faces, and nobody is talking about it. Unfortunately, it is the government of the day that has entrenched this. How? Wike. Nyesom Wike. Nyesom Wike was in PDP in 2023. He worked for APC. When he finished, he was appointed a minister to serve in the government, and he didn't get the permission of his party, PDP, to serve in APC government. Meaning that he has formed an alliance, or he has formed, yes, an alliance, let's call it alliance, without his party. He appears to be the party. He's the one string protecting everything. So he's the one in charge of that party. He is the prime example of being in one party and working for another. He has said it that he campaigned for
PDP
Tinubu,
has not done anything to that.
And the PDP has been unable to handle him. You know, like he's too hot to handle, or he's too big for them to encircle. So if that is now the norm, others have taken to that. Peter Obi said it, that he was going to be, that he's still in Labour Party, but he's a member of the coalition. Sule Lamido said, no, I'm still in PDP, but he's supporting the coalition. So they have made it a norm. Impunity has become the norm, and I don't know.
Well, maybe they are going to collapse their whole structure.
Well, what it looks like is this: when the election comes and they have decided who their candidates will be, you will now contribute your structures to be able to come together and face the ruling party. So last Saturday, the question I was asking was, if Festus Keyamo can now be talking about unconstitutionality in being in one party and talking about another, then he has failed in doing that with Wike, because the APC did not remove the log in its own eye before talking about the speck in other people's eyes. So they have allowed impunity, and now they are beginning to complain about impunity. It is wrong. It is Nigerians that are suffering these things.
Exactly.
It shouldn't be. I honestly don't think it should be.
Let's talk about Peter Obi, because I saw something on X this morning that whether coalition or no coalition, Peter Obi has gotten a supporters base, even as a Labour Party's flag bearer during the last election, that whether he is part of the coalition or not, he can still even win the election come 2027 without coalition. So do you also align with these thoughts, or you think that he needs the coalition?
He has support, yes. He can win election, I don't know. There are two different things. Peter Obi has support, definitely. And I think he is one of the ingredients that made the coalition to sound solid. If Peter Obi wasn't part of that coalition, it would have been, in fact, it would have been so denigrated, because nobody would believe Atiku calling people together. It would have been the same thing. Sule Lamido, Amechi, Shehu Abubakar Malami, and so on and so on. No.
Well, the call came from him.
But because Peter Obi was in that thing, now, they now said, no, this is looking serious. If it happens that they give him the ticket, it will now make it more interesting, because it's going to add some spices to the mix. The difference for him is that, yes, he has support base, he has the followership of more young Nigerians. Exactly. So very many. And that is why they were able to take over the social media from the APC, or let me put it this way, from the Action Congress, when before the ACN, Action Congress of Nigeria, before they became a member of APC. So the ability of Peter Obi's obedience to snatch the social media control from the ACN, it tells you that no, something very big is happening. So Peter Obi has followership. Can the followership harness themselves and win an election? That's another ball game entirely. So I think he needs the coalition more than the coalition needs him. The coalition can decide to say, okay, you know. But again, one of the things I respect him for is that he said he's not desperate. If you want me, if I do it, fine. If I don't do it, I go. Thankfully, he has businesses he's doing. He has a second address. He's not a politician, you know. So that I like about him. But he needs the coalition if he is going to do anything, because the North does not trust him. Yeah, they've planted that.
Yeah, we have the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, talking, and he has accused the coalition leaders of fighting for their stomachs rather than the interests of Nigerians. Would you say this alliance is ideologically driven, or purely a response to some political frustration, or a means of seeking political relevance for the stakeholders?
Interesting question. The ADC is not ideologically driven. And I can say the same for all the other political parties. I remember Chief Bola Ige of blessed memory describing the 5 political parties available at that time as 5 fingers of a leprous hand. It is still the same thing. You know, from what we read, it is the same Chief Bola Ige that wrote the constitution of the APP, the PDP, and the AD. Is the same person. So it means that if there is an ideology, they are from the same source. They are all on the same ideological basis. You know, that's one. Then 2, what is the difference between the APP, the PDP, the APC, or whatever? What is the difference indeed? You see, now they have made it to be so fluid that sometimes when you go to the National Assembly and before you now write about any lawmaker or something, you have to reconfirm if the person is still in the political party you knew. make it not be say this man I'm calling a member of the APC has defected to the PDP or vice versa. So in terms of ideology, there is no ideology anywhere. The ideology that is on the table now is power. Snatch power, get Tinubu out of office. That is the ideology on the table. But achieving the ideology, driving the ideology, getting to the goal they have set for themselves is another ball game entirely, because the man they are also pursuing is also, in fact, he is very comfortable with the kind of game they are playing. So many of us are trying to see if anybody among them is going to come up with any inkling of ideology to say, here is our ideological direction, and then we'll now be able to scrutinize and know if indeed there is an ideological drive or not. Again, many of them have said that there are many people behind the scene who have not come out to show their support, that when the time comes and so on. So we are looking at the 2015 scenario again. You know, when the time comes, you now see people rise to begin to work against their party, giving instructions and so on. Is that what is going to be? Is that what will happen? Many of us do not know, but we hope that by the time it comes, we now know if there is going to be an ideology upon which all of them would be running. By then we will know and we'll be able to say, yes, ideology is here. But for now, no ideology.
No ideology. Yeah, and the collapse of all the structure of the African Democratic Party, as announced by the former chairman Ralph Nwosu, to enable a new leadership to drive the coalition to forces ahead of 2027 general election, is not even sitting well with some state chairmen of the party. Because some are saying it as if they hijacked the party from them, even with the leadership of the likes of David Mark being the interim chairman of the party. And so what does ADC stand to gain being the party adopted by this coalition and giving to its political terrain and popularity?
Now, the action of Nwosu, that's Ralph Nwosu, and other members of the National Working Committee of the party, the action of the National Working Committee of the party not sitting well with some state chapters is neither here nor there. I think we should clear that on the table. They should even not make them no go there at all, because the hierarchy of the party, as it is registered with INEC, signed for the takeover. They had meetings upon meetings, including inviting those who are supposed to be in the know. But the people who registered the party, who own the party, who sign for the party whenever they have anything to do with INEC, have aligned with the takeover. Now, we now come to the state chapters. When was the last time you heard of ADC in Oyo State? If you ever did. It is this, even in Anambra, in Oka South, where Ralph Nwosu comes from, nobody hears about the party. It is APGA, APC, PDP,
or Labour Party.
Later, Labour Party. And that's it. So if anybody comes from the states to say I am the rightfully elected chairman of the it's neither here nor there, because the takeover from you see me speaking like a politician, and that's because I got wind of all those things a bit early, and when I saw as they were going, I knew it might take a different turn, and that is what is happening now. For sure, be ready to read more or learn more of so many things that will come, like a fight back, a force. But the national leadership of the party is in control of the party. So anything anybody does at the state will be questioned, because many people will ask if you have ever heard of ADC in any of these states. Me now, all my years covering politics, I don't know who runs ADC in Oyo State. I don't even know where their secretariat is. You know, so that should serve as an example. Along, let's say, the southwest of Ibadan and maybe southeast or northwest, the areas where we are very conversant with, we have not seen their party secretariat anywhere in any of the local governments. So it tells you that the party is just beginning to find its feet, and by finding its feet, it means it's leaning on the powers being given to it by the new leadership. So nobody should come now and begin to tell us about states until we begin to read about the legalese, begin to read about the laws and what has happened and what has not happened.
So you think that this coalition has the potential to gain significant support across the region in the country? And what do you foresee to be the challenges that might disrupt their plans for 2027 elections?
Yes. You see, from what is smoldering, from what is cooking, they are gathering support. No doubt about that. They are playing on sentiments. They are playing on the weaknesses of the society. You know, Nigerians, anywhere belle face, that's what we are. So they are playing on the weaknesses of the generality of the masses. It is very easy to amplify what is not going on well. Beautiful. Now, do they have the power? There's a second leg to your question.
Yeah.
If they have the significant, it is going to come. That's what I know, because it's not going to. They only did what they did last week. In the last 1 week, I doubt if you have heard anything from them. It is mostly from people who are condemning the ADC, who are condemning the people in it, who are denigrating them and so on. In the last 1 week, you watch.
They've not reacted.
Yes, they kept quiet. They've gone back to their plan. They will be watching, and they, so that tells you that with time they are going to gain more momentum. And they are going to, even they are claiming that they are going to even get governors from the APC itself. So I'm like, where is this confidence coming from? Could it be because of the political atmosphere in the country? But hey, the other parties are as good as dead. They've been balkanized so very much. So now it is the ADC that is talking, or rather ADC that is on the front burner, and the APC is talking. So ADC is watching. In the last 1 week, like I said, just after they launched and did a few interviews, they went back. Now it has been everybody discussing the ADC. I know that when the time comes, even in Oyo State here, if you don't get what you want in maybe PDP or APC or Labour Party or any other party, the ADC is there as an option. And politics is negotiation. So I foresee a more robust battle in the coming months in the polity. I foresee that seriously.
And I think the rancor is even insignificant compared to what they stand to gain at the local government, the state level, not to talk of the national level, because it's a big picture for them.
It's a big picture. You know, interestingly, everything starts and ends at the presidency. They now begin to dictate what happens in the states. Now, the leadership of that party, in fact, I once asked a question that got me a tongue lashing. But I asked the question anyway. I asked what the leadership of the ADC got as compensation to relinquish their platform, so easily like that.
For coalition.
For coalition. And somebody tongue-lashed me. The man I was interviewing tongue-lashed me. He said that he took exception to the question I asked, that how can I be saying that people who have been negotiating with them for nearly 1-2 years will now be... He said he couldn't have been quantified in terms of money. I'm talking about the big picture which you talked about. He said it can't be quantified in terms of naira and kobo. And so I said, okay, so what is now the compensation? Are you giving them offices? Are you giving them appointments? And so he said, wait till we form the government. I said, okay, in that case, they know that their plan is to take over the government. They are working on the ground. And I wanted to say inciting people, which is actually what they do when you talk about when you speak against the government. You are inciting the people against the government. So they are talking, inciting people, psyching people up, and so on and so forth, to give support to the ADC. And it's already gaining momentum from some of the grassroots places where we can, because many of the people who are in that party, they have support at the grassroots.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Sam Nwako. But before I let you go, it seems that we've talked about a lot, particularly how to gain the support from different regions and how they should just focus on the bigger picture rather than all of this rancor and the back and forth. And would you say that ADC is well positioned at the center for a major political reconfiguration? Because a lot of political parties have come, talk about their plans, what they want to do for Nigerians, and yet there is nothing to show for it. Do you think ADC coming together to form a coalition have what it takes to actually be at the center for this political reconfiguration?
I don't think so, because it is the same people. Old wine in a new bottle or new wine in old bottle, whichever way, it is still the same people. My grandmother would say the same thing and 10 pence. I didn't know what that thing meant, but what she is trying to say is it is still the same people. It's the same 10 pence. It is the same side of a different, you know, the two sides of a coin. That's what they are. In terms of what they have to offer, they will grab power first. They will now begin to think of what to do with it. Unfortunately, it happened to APC. It happened to even Tinubu, because sometimes they didn't believe they were going to get these things. Tinubu himself said it that sometime, somewhere along the line, he felt like, look, I've had enough of this. I want to give up. You know, but today he's in power. So to a large extent, we seem to be fighting for power without knowing what to do with it when we get it. So it's always one of the problems. Now, the same people who have been fighting for power over these years are the ones in the ADC, still in the same battle, fighting for the same power. So what exactly do they have? What grounds are we shifting? I don't think there's any difference. Until they get there, if it happens, if they can rescue power from Tinubu, you know, we will now get to see what happens. But if there is anything different we are expecting from these groups of people, I don't think I'm not expecting anything.
Well, maybe it's too early for us to.
Well, maybe it's too early. I don't know. The only person that sounds different, that sounds a little bit different, is Peter Obi. He's the only one that sounds different. And
he has been in the race for a while.
Yeah. So it's been very difficult to say, okay, this is where he was. He talks. This is the corrupt case. Nearly everybody else has one corruption case or the other he is battling with, except him. And so maybe he's the only one that can sound different. But apart from any other person, he has also worked with the people who do not sound differently. So they are, like I said, they are the same thing.
All the same.
All the same. So that's exactly what I think about them.
Well, thank you so much, Mr. Sam Nwoko, for your time on the program this morning as we look at 2027 and the rise of the third force. Well, Nigerians we are keeping fingers crossed as to what the ADC have to offer to Nigerians and whether they are going to bring up their A game on board by the time the election is fast approaching, because it seems that all attention is just on 2027 and we don't have any other things to talk about except 2027.
We've forgotten 2026.
Exactly, as if there is no other pressing issues.
A whole year, 6 months, and another 3 or thereabout months before we get to 2027.
Exactly.
Let's just keep our fingers crossed and be begging God. Yes.
Yes, that's what you take on the interview segment for this morning. We'll take a break for sport updates with Adebola Adeleke. Do stay with us.